Hello everyone, I'm Dennis from Woodsongs. Welcome to our 5th video in the musicianship series. This video will be called chord building. So this video, of course, builds on the previous one. So if you haven't seen those, or if you're watching this video and it doesn't make sense to you, make sure you go back and watch the previous ones that we've done. So when we build chords, like building anything, you need raw materials to build with. The materials we use to build chords with are the notes of a scale. The scale we'll use today is the major scale, and we did that in our last lesson. So if you take a look at my virtual keyboard, and by the way, if you don't have a keyboard at home to play with, I'll put a link for this particular virtual piano underneath the text part of the video, and you can link to it. I like this one because it's nice and clean looking, and it has a note display in the center if you're not familiar with your note names on the piano. So just briefly last time, let's review this major scale. When I start on C and I play up through all the white keys to the next C, that's a major scale, because C to D is a whole step, D to E is a whole step, E to F is a half step. So our formula on the lower part of a major scale is 2 whole steps, 1 half step. The top part of the scale from F to G is a whole step, G to A is a whole step, A to B is a whole step, and B to C is a half step. So the top part of the scale is 3 whole steps and a half step. So 2 whole steps and a half step, 3 whole steps and a half step. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build triads. A triad is simply built on any note I want to start on. That note is called the root note. And I go every other note till I have 3 notes. So I go in thirds. You remember that from the first lesson. I talked about practicing saying the musical alphabet in thirds. So if I do that starting on C, I have a C, I have an E, and a G. That's a C triad. Very simple. Let's build one on D. D, F, A. So when you practice these, it's really good. Recite their names. It will help drill them in so they become second nature. E triad, E, G, B. An F triad, F, A, C. G triad, G, B, D, if I can find it. A triad, A, C, E. B triad is B, D, and F. And if I want to finish it off in the next octave, I can do my C triad again. C, E, and G. Right, so play them, say their names of the triads in different orders. You just want to start to hear these 3 sets of notes together as a chord. So now the question always is, well, is it a major chord? Is it a minor chord? Why do we call it what we call it? Why is C major? Why is A minor? Well, take a look at my Photoshop illustration here. You can enjoy my Photoshop wizardry. We have 3 men here. Major man, or they could be women. Doesn't matter. Minor man, diminished man. Notice on the left, major man has long legs and a pretty short torso. His foot represents the root of the chord. His waist represents the 3rd of the chord. And the top of his head is the 5th of the chord. The distance from his foot to his waist is 2 whole steps. He's got long legs. He's got a short torso. So major man can run really fast, but he's a little weak in the upper body. Let's take a look at the keyboard again. When we build a C triad, C, E, and G, when I move from C to E, in between it is a D. What is that distance? That is a whole step. From D to E, what is that distance? That is a whole step. That is 2 whole steps. But when I move from the 3rd of the chord to the 5th of the chord, E to G, how far have I moved? Well, from E to F is a half step, F to G is a whole step. Therefore, the top of that chord is 1.5 steps. So a major chord is bigger on the bottom, 2 whole steps. The top of the chord is 1.5 steps. That is our formula for a major chord, and that's what major man represents. Minor man is exactly the opposite. Minor man has short legs, can't run too fast, but he's real strong in the upper body. Okay? Look at our keyboard again. If I go to D, the distance from D to F, how far is that? It's 1.5 steps, because D to E is a whole step, E to F is a half step. Therefore, it's a total of 1.5. How far is it from F to A? F to G is a whole step, G to A is a whole step, therefore it's 2 whole steps. So the minor chord formula is smaller on the bottom, bigger on top. And that's what minor man represents. If I could find him. There he is. Short legs, bigger torso. Diminished man on the right side, he's symmetrical. He's pretty evenly balanced. 1.5 steps on both sides of his body. So if we take a look at the keyboard again, and I'm going to go up to the B note to demonstrate diminished man. B to D to F, right? B to D, how far is that? Well, it's a half step between B and C, and it's a whole step between C and D. Therefore, it's 1.5 steps. D to F, how far is that? D to E is a whole step. E to F is a half step. That's 1.5. So it's symmetrical on the bottom and the top. Okay? Now, if you go back to my diagram here, notice at the bottom of each man, we have chords spelled out from the bottom up. So when I build a triad on C, I get C, E, and G. It falls into the major man category, and therefore it's a major chord. So when we build a C triad in the key of C, it's major. When we build one on F, which is the 4th note up the scale, it is also major. When we build one on the 5th note of the scale, on G, it's also major. If we move over to the minor category, when we build on D, we always get a minor chord. When we build on E, we always get minor. And when we build on A, we always get minor. So D minor, E minor, and A are minor in the key of C. This is only the key of C we're talking about. When I build on the 7th note of the scale, B, D, and F, that is the only diminished chord in a major key. It's always built on the 7th note of the scale. Diminished chord is used more in, frequently in jazz and classical music. It is used in popular and folk music, but it's usually hidden within another chord. Talk about that at some other point in time. So what I recommend you do is go back to your virtual keyboard and just play with this a little bit. You know, play C, E, and G. Sing it, C, E, G, and then go to an F chord. F, A, C, and so on. Go to an E chord, create a minor chord. Play around with it. Now, when we build a chord on the 1st note of the scale, the C scale, that's called the 1 chord. When we build a note on the 2nd note of the scale, it's called the 2 chord. So in our major scale, when we build chords, here's our formula. 1 is major, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, 7 is diminished. The way I learned it was 1, 4, and 5 are major. Okay, you've probably heard that expression. It's a 1-4-5 chord progression. A lot of old rock and roll tunes like La Bamba, Twist and Shout, hundreds of folk songs. They only use 1, 4, and 5. So 1, 4, and 5 are major. 2, 3, and 6 are minor. The one oddball one left over is 7, which is diminished. Okay, so now what you can do if you want to take this one step further, apply it to your instrument, and for now, just to get ready for the next lesson, I would suggest you map out in the note mapping diagram, which you can download at the bottom of the lessons page at Woodsongs. Map out your C chord, which is the notes C, E, and G. On every string, you can find that note up to the 5th fret if you're playing guitar, ukulele, banjo, mandolin. If you're playing mandolin would be the exception. It would be the 7th fret, right? So you would map it up to the 7th fret. Map out all your C's, E's, and G's. That's called the 1 chord. Then go to the 5 chord, which is G, G, B, and D. In a separate diagram, map out all your G's, B's, and D's that you can find on your instrument. And then next time what we'll do is we'll play a simple tune with just a 1 chord and a 5 chord. We'll play the scale against it, maybe do a little improvising, and we'll talk about how you can make use of where those chord notes are laid out on your instrument to improvise against the song and just to understand the layout of your instrument better. Okay, thanks for watching. See you next time.